Good morning. My name is Keenan Pinto, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Nordetect. At Nordetect, we build portable testing solutions for the agricultural and the environmental industries. We were finalists at GrowNY last year. But I'm so glad that we're back here to tell you about what's changed, and we could do it in person. But before we begin, let me ask you, what do mining and natural gas have in common? Well, besides being heavy carbon-emitting industries, they give us a key ingredient required for agriculture: fertilizer. Or simply put, the food we feed our crops. And just as humans require carbs and proteins and fats, plants require nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, among others, to grow. And if you feed them too little, it leads to decreased yield, which is what you see in many parts of Africa, because they cannot afford it. But what's worse is if you feed them too much. We end up with a situation where it trickles down to our groundwater, enters our lakes and streams, which you all commonly know as runoff. Fertilizer runoff is a key cause of harmful algal blooms, which causes damage to our freshwater sources, destroys property value, and of late is causing health issues to humans as well. So what's stopping growers from improving on this fertilizer usage? Well, currently, a lab-based process takes anywhere between 7 to 15 days to get a result. All this while, a crop is waiting. Most growers know that they have an issue, but they wait for the lab result to make those changes. All this while, the crop is losing yield potential. This was corroborated by growers in the region through our business development efforts, who pointed out that nutrient imbalances have an adverse effect on crop development. This is where we're changing the industry. We cut down that time from days to minutes, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost as compared to the laboratory. We deliver our value through a lab-on-a-chip system that simultaneously measures the key macronutrients found in crops all at once from a single sample. And we can do this from soil, water, and plant sap. Best of all, the product is portable, and it sits there right where the grower needs to use it, next to their pH meter, conductivity meter, and other tools that they're used to using today. But improving takes time, and growers must look at what they did the last time to improve the next grow cycle. This is where data and intelligence comes in. We augment the measurement tool with a simple web app that allows growers to track their progress, grow to grow, and make improvements and find out what recipes work best for their environment. In the essence, faster decision making, which is critical for growers, allows them to decrease their fertilizer wastage and improve their yields, because fertilizer is a third of their cost, and you can net up to 5 to 6% extra on your yields by maintaining the conditions. But for the environment, decreased fertilizer wastage reduces runoff and prevents the CO2 mitigates the CO2 risk from the wastage. As I mentioned, we have an application outdoor as well as indoor. But to start, we have to be laser focused. Our beachhead segment is controlled environment agriculture in the US, specifically high-value crops such as berries, tomatoes, and cannabis. On an average cost of $3,000 to the grower per year and an estimated 16,000 CEA farms in the US, we land at an obtainable market of $48 million. After we establish ourselves in this market, we plan on growing outdoors to the soil market in the US and then globally, which allows us to reach a cumulative market value of $5 billion. Our business model is simple. We sell the hardware at a one-time cost to the grower and then bundle the test kits and the data application on a monthly subscription. And while you may think that growers are not used to subscriptions, it is becoming more and more commonplace. They're also used to buying fertilizer on a routine basis, and our plan is to have the test kits delivered just as often. This also opens up opportunities for partnerships with companies that advise the growers on how to improve, as well as provide fertilizer to them. So what changed since last year? Just in December, after GrowNY, we were able to raise $1.5 million in private capital, as well as another $500,000 in public domain grants in order to get our product to market. This allowed us to grow our team, make iterations on the product, and proceed with small batch manufacturing. That in turn allowed us to launch an early access program, which enabled us to pivot and find product market fit with customers in the US and the EU. We also won Bayer's annual startup competition, and we're working with their teams to understand how this product can be useful to their company. Now we're back at GrowNY, re-energized with the GrowNY ecosystem, and we're also receiving production samples for our market launch. Moving forward, we aim to immediately hire 2 staff focused on business development to launch the product and essentially grow our monthly recurring revenue. Like many of the startups, we're continuously in R&D, and this will not stop. And our expenses today outpace our revenues. But with our hardware subscription model, we believe that we will hit our first million in year 3 and then turn to profitability in year 4. That's when we start our global expansion plans. Our plan for the region is a 3-pronged effort, focusing on manufacturing, R&D, and operations. But the key facet here is manufacturing, and this is what we've spent most of the time on with partners and meetings in Rochester. This thing, while it may look simple, takes die cutting, injection molding, CNC, pick and place, and clean room requirements all to put this together. And we need to produce thousands and hundreds of thousands of these. And while this is not impossible anywhere else, we found everything we need within a 10 to 15 mile radius of Rochester Center. That's something that is irreplaceable. On this, people tend to downplay how important it is to have a well-functioning back office. That's where NextCore comes in. We have an office space at NextCore, and they're already advising us on the US market and how things work here. And to work and enter the US market, we're working with the best in the business launch team who specializes in deep tech to tailor our offering for the US market and reach our customers. In terms of R&D, we've met with Cornell Agritech and Tech Farm to understand how we can have a presence close to the strong research capabilities of Cornell. Aside from that, it's uncanny that a single region can be such a good fit for our business that specializes in agriculture and plant sciences, optics, photonics, and imaging. Look, we're ready to dive in head first, but manufacturing especially is a capital-intensive process. We plan on establishing here and reinvesting every dollar that we gain from the competition back into the region, with a $250,000 prize, allowing us to immediately set up operations, launch the product, and grow revenues. The $500,000 prize will allow us to establish manufacturing, especially our cartridge production line, in an automated manner, making investments in tooling and robotics. The $1 million prize will allow us to leverage our IP to develop new products for digital agriculture in partnership with the academics at Cornell Agritech. And I'm sure that it will allow us to create more jobs than we expect. My co-founder Palak and I started the company to bring medical-grade technology to agriculture, to allow growers to operate with the precision that doctors do. But to develop the product, we've assembled a team with backgrounds in hardware and the Internet of Things, nanotechnology, microfluidics, and polymer science, as well as computer vision and machine learning. And our advisors, who've been executives in scale-ups and corporations, guide us through with commercialization and implementation. To summarize, we have a business model with razor blades that has been proven by giants such as Kodak and Xerox and is still used by many companies today. Our customer value is as clear as our results are immediate. Lower fertilizer wastage, improved yields, and preventing runoff. Our innovation is a scalable product, but it is at cost, which will be affordable by the small and mid-sized grower, which is the majority of the market in the US today. We have a strong team that is motivated by purpose beyond anything else. And we have the opportunity to create high-paying jobs in manufacturing, R&D, and operations. My name is Keenan Pinto. Thank you for listening. We are Nordetect, and I'd like to invite my co-founder, Palak Sehgal, for the Q&A.
Great. All right. 9 minutes and 25 seconds. First question over to you, John Caltabiano.
Really interesting product you got here, and very intrigued by it. I guess one of my questions is, as you looked at the competitive landscape, who are the big competitors or like competitors, either both here in the U.S. and outside of the U.S.?
We see competitors on the corporate side like Hach and Merck. These are two strong companies that have existed for generations now that have spectrophotometer devices that perform in the laboratory. They also have test strip readers that are single parameter. One of the key benefits of our system above theirs is they were never able to combine all of these tests to deliver the key value that growers are looking for. They always ask for at least the macronutrients and then the micronutrients. This is where the microfluidic platform stands above them. You also find products like probes, ion selective electrodes, but one of the key things that growers pointed out is that the constant need to recalibrate them every time they take a test is very off-putting. And these are the two things that we've addressed with our product. You do not need a technician to use it, it's grower friendly, and you do not need to repeatedly calibrate it, which makes it ready to use every time you need to.
Great. Laura, over to you.
Hi, this is very interesting to me, and I have a couple of questions to follow up on. You said that you're going to focus on controlled atmospheric agriculture to start with, and it would be about $3,000 a year. How does that compare? Sorry. How does that?
Uh-oh.
There it is. Okay. How does that compare with other services, or does it compare with other services as far as cost?
So we pit ourselves against the laboratories, and this is sort of the average spend that a grower would spend if they're sending samples to laboratories. Other products in the space would typically, if you look at the laboratory spectrophotometers, they would cost about $4,000 to $5,000 as an upfront cost, and they are per parameter $3. So if you count the 5 that we delivered, they'd be $15 per test. So we are comparable slightly towards the higher end instruments, but as we grow with decreasing costs, if we're able to drop that price, then we could also capture some of the market from the lower end instruments as well, like the test strip readers.
So would you see some of the consultants buying this and using it rather than an individual farmer?
We see that more outdoors. When it's within CEA, we find that the farms are starting to invest in technologies themselves. So if you consider outdoor agriculture, that is the model that works the best, where you have an advisor or a consultant that would have this, it fits in a small briefcase and he can take it with him. But indoors, we see them acquiring it because they're used to slightly higher CapEx costs, so they can have it there and not have to call someone down to do it, because that's not as routine in CEA.
Great. Over to you, John Ang.
Yeah, really interesting technology. Hell, I might be a customer of yours in not too near future. Actually, wanted to go into that a little bit more, but could you give me a hard metric about the faster resulting in, or give me a metric about having the speed of speed test in an actual number and an actual improvement in my growing or improvement in yield?
Just to clarify, is that the time benefit? Is that we're looking at the time benefit?
Yes. If I'm getting this result in a week quicker than a standard mail-in test, give me a hard number about what will be my improvement.
Studies in the Netherlands have shown that it's a 5 to 6%. It's not a significant amount, but 5 to 6%, if you're already functioning at high efficiency and high productivity, can be a significant amount to your operation.
Just to add to that, if you get the result instantaneously, then you can do something about it in the present grow and not wait for the next grow. So that's where you get the benefit.
Yeah, I could totally see how in some of the hydroponics or
Yes.
that would result in a much more immediate reaction time.
Yes.
Soil grown, a little more time to react, a little more time to adjust.
So the sort of use case differs because outdoors, it's a cost as well. Indoors, we see that growers care less about cost savings. They want to improve yields because they are already spending a lot on lights and other energy and so on in their OPEX. When it's outdoors, if they're able to minimize their expense by understanding what they have as a nutrient capacity, that's a benefit. And when you're doing rotations, you typically have a very narrow gap between one rotation and the next, so that's where the time really plays in. We've spoken with farmers in Eastern Europe who say that when they send their samples to a laboratory, the soil typically takes longer than water testing. And that gap leaves them with very little time to make changes and go out between rotations.
Great. Over to Annie Grieven for the next question.
Hey, thanks, guys. One of the things that is growing in significance is really being able to measure carbon. Is your process going to be able to accurately measure that and report that in real time? And is that something that you're looking to build in?
Should I take it? So carbon is not something we measure today. Mainly because it's all organic materials. So in order to do that, we have to degrade the carbon either with an oven or with a strong acid. When you have to do either of these two, it changes the value proposition from a portable tool. It is something we're looking at, and it's a question we get very often. We see that carbon is not something that farmers especially are asking us for. It's the community around it that are talking about it. For right now, we're focused on proving value to the grower, but it is something that is on our radar. It makes the product a little bit more complicated.
Great. Okay, over to Mary for another question.
Sure. So it's great to see you back this year, and thanks for including the information on what's different, what's changed. For those of Laura and I who were on this last year, it's nice to hear that there was a very specific redirect, which I think was good, or as you say, looking for that product market fit. But now that you've identified that, controlled environment ag in the U.S., do you have an idea how are you going to reach that market?
Yes. We have, within CEA, also nailed it down to specifically cannabis, tomatoes, and berries. And we're working with launch team, so what we're doing right now is a combination of outbound and inbound. What we did is we got some press after the funding round in media outlets like Horticulture Daily, which led to a landslide of 30 to 40 inbound requests in a day. So we will continue to do this as for example, we have a big announcement coming up. We'll get that out. Competition like this will also help. But beyond that, also the outbound efforts, word of mouth is really strong. When someone realizes, gosh, these guys can do it in 5 minutes and it works. We've tried it. That's one of the sort of viral spreading factors. So it is a combination of both outbound and inbound, especially with these specific media outlets like Horticulture Daily that let you reach the viewers. LinkedIn is another one. We're starting to see a lot more CEA growers post their pictures on LinkedIn about their grows and how they've converted greenhouses, etc., and immediately reach out to them. And the agronomist is a one-to-many relationship. So agronomists who like it say, hey, I'll just pass this on to my growers and let them decide.
Great. One more quick question from Laura.
Okay, sorry. Are you thinking about adding more micronutrients to your capabilities, especially foliar samples and micronutrients on them? That I see is something that I know we use in the middle of the growing season, and we need to know the results fairly quickly.
Yes, this is in our pipeline. So for next year R&D, we are adding iron, copper, and micronutrients, which are of most concern to the growers, because some of them exist in parts per billion levels, which are very difficult to access, like boron. But iron, copper, to start with manganese, we will add to our portfolio.
Great. Well, I think